Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge and the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you my Wyndham Championship. This is my Before the Lock show where I go over ownership projections. I give you my top 5 value plays. We talk about weather. I do the analysis on the lower. So we're going to look at the guys that are 7,000 and below. Kind of sift through the weeds and see which guys could pop, could win, could bring you great value and ultimately be your differentiators in your large GPP DFS lineups. Thank you for stopping by as always, and let's get into this. So as I've been mentioning, I have a giveaway and it's a pretty good giveaway. It is for the FedEx Cup playoffs. And what is it? It is simply I am going to be selecting one lucky winner, one of my subscribers, to win $1,000 at the end of the FedEx Cup playoffs. All you need to do is subscribe. If you're not a subscriber, tell me down below in the YouTube comments who you think is going to win the FedEx Cup playoffs. And also, if you would, please click the like button. That's always nice. And if you know anybody else that would be interested in getting this contest or listening to my analysis, share it. Share this with them. Okay, let's get into this. So I went over this multiple times, but I'll just say one more time. These are the comp courses I'll be leveraging when we're looking through the value plays. And, of course, it would be the WGC at TPC Southland we just saw. The players at TPC Sawgrass, the Rocket, which is a Donald Ross course. It's a Detroit Country Club. You got East Lake, where they play the Tour Championship. RBC Heritage, of course, Harbortown. Sea Island, where they play the RSM. And then Wailea, where they play the Sony. Those will be the courses that I'll bang up against the guys that I'm looking at to ultimately see who or who not we might want to play after all the other analysis. All right, with that said, let's go jump over to Fantasy National and let's go weed through the guys 7,000 and below. Okay, so jumped over to Fantasy National, and as I mentioned multiple times, great product, great tool. I use it quite heavily. I highly recommend it. And again, if you didn't catch my previous shows, what I'm looking at here is this is kind of a mini model looking at stroke gain analysis. And the stroke gain analysis that I highlighted in my preview show, of course, approach being like 1A, putting would be 1B, proximity from 150 to 175. About 30% of the approach shots come in from that distance. And of course, scrambling shows up here at this event. And lastly, you of course have to get it in the fairway or close to, so you can hit your approach shots and hopefully put it in the fairway where you have a good angle of attack. And the number one thing that I'm also looking at is, of course, these guys are going to get it to 20 or below. So they got to make birdies. And so this is another key indicator. And this is looking at the last 12 rounds. This number over here, just so you know, is pulling from my larger model. That is not this model. It's pulling from the larger model. And then, of course, to the far right here, we got recent results and tournament history in the past, of course, at the Wyndham at Sedgefield. Okay, with that said, I already picked a couple guys around this area, so I'll talk very highly about that just in case you are at a very high level about that. But the first guy I'm landing on that I like is Luke List. Now, of course, the one thing that Luke does not do very well is the putting, but he ball strikes the shit out of the ball. He's one of the better talents, of course, probably in this field, if you just looked at it from a pure off the tee and approach. Of course, you can see Infoego on the birdies. And his recent results, he had a chance to win the John Deere, the Barbasol, not as good at the 3 Open. And he has played this track before, of course, last year at a T66, but a few miscuts before. And really, Luke is not the first guy I think of when I think of this course. But when I was doing a little further analysis, and I'll click on it, what I found was interesting. Of course, the one area that I'm looking for is guys that can putt. And, of course, you can see here over the life of Luke's career on all different type of grass surfaces, he loses against the field when it comes to the putter. But then when I kind of started to dig down a little further and look at where he's had some positive putting experiences, so Palmetto, he actually gained almost 3 strokes with a putter. That is Bermuda. If you look at here, he gained almost 3 strokes with the putter at Wells Fargo at Quail. That's also Bermuda. The Valero Texas Open, that's also Bermuda. Of course, the players at TPC Sawgrass, and that would be, I believe, TPC in San Antonio. But the players, of course, TPC Sawgrass, that's Bermuda. So if we kind of just look over some of his last, the Arnold Palmer, that's Bermuda, gaining a stroke and a half. He's had his best showings with the putter as of recent on Bermuda. So with that said, that's kind of where I'm going with, hey, he puts the ball striking together. and he's on Bermuda. This could be a weekend. I don't know if Luke could win this thing, but could he top 10 for sure? Let's go plug in some of those comparable courses. We already looked at the Wyndham, so we know it's not great. He had a 66 most recently. The WGC St. Jude, that was 2018. That doesn't really count. That would be at Firestone. Not really a good comparable course. Let's see. The Players, a miscut recently, but a 56 before that, a couple miscuts. So nothing great at TPC Sawgrass. What about the Rocket? He had a 21st in 2020, the Rocket Mortgage. And I believe off the top of my head, that's bent grass at that Donald Ross course. What about the Tour Championship? He's never made it that far. What about the RBC Heritage? So, good comp course. This is back in 2018. But, again, it had to be, the approach shot was just en fuego. But a 58 recently. So, you could hang your hat a little bit on that. What about the RSM at Sea Island? So again, back, funny enough, 2018, he had a 4th, a 13th, a 53rd. Miscut will be the most recent back in 2020. And let's go look at the Sony at Wailea. A bunch of miscuts recently, but the best, funny enough, you can kind of see, there you go. A perfect example. He had a 13th the one time he didn't get cut from the Sony, and the putter was working. And he gained almost 3.5, well, he gained over 3.5 strokes. So it just shows you it's not the ball striking, it's if the putter works or not that weekend, and usually it does not. But going on a bit of a flyer that for that price tag, projected ownership, he can make a bunch of birdies, and he's had some decent recent form. I'm going to go ahead and plug him in at 7,100. Brendan Todd, just you can see my large model likes him. He does everything that this course requires. The problem is the putter has went a little sideways for Brendan Todd. And again, this is pulling up over the last 12 rounds. Hence, you could see that with recent results. And he hasn't had a good, good showings here. Best showing, or only time he made the cut, at least within this picture, was 2013. So I'm going to go ahead and, I'm going to just talk about that. I could see sprinkling in some Brendan Todd, but he's not going to be in mine. I already picked Bo Hoag in my top 15 picks. So you can see, again, from a modeling perspective, he's had good recent form, making the birdies, does everything I want there. And I called that a model pick. It's just everything I'm seeing from a statistical standpoint says, hey, Bo Hoag at that price tag could be pretty viable. No thank you on Killer Keith. Just doesn't do what I want at this course. And you can see he had a good showing at the 3M, but everything else has been pretty rough. Substraka, popped up, of course, at the Olympics, had a good showing. And at the Travelers, other than that. So the guy that I already mentioned, Ryan Armour, again, one of my top 15 picks, I think is the best value on the board. You can see projected ownership is also showing that. So I'm not the only one that sees that. Doc Redman's interesting, right? He had that tied for third last year at this event. And a lot like Luke List, if Doc Redman's putter goes, so could Doc Redman. So again, you can see how this field elite on everything that we're looking for, except for the putter. You can see the birdies have fallen off, hence, the last couple cuts. So that's a bit of a concern. Again, Kyle Stanley fits again in that model. Great ball striker, terrible putter. He's getting in the 40s and 50s, but you can just see just not making the birdies. Mark Hubbard, a guy that I call the bookend guy. What I like about Mark Hubbard is you can play him for a first round leader. He will show up usually first round and sneakily on Sunday. If he makes the weekend, can have a good Sunday. You can see some decent finishes. Things that I do like to see, a 13th. When you see the guys kind of popping into teens, that has shown in the past that they will have, a win or their first win. He's not one of my top 5, but you could definitely play some Mark Hubbard. Projected ownership's, 8.6 right now. And we'll verify that when we flip over to ownership projection. Scott Piercy, just, talk about him as in, he had a good showing at the Barracuda. I believe he came in second. It doesn't show up here. He's made the cut every time he's played here, at least what this is showing over the last 5 events. He also had T19 at Palmetto, so he's had some show of life, but, again, the putter, the approach, things that I need, Piercy doesn't. And he's just so volatile. That guy, literally could shoot 5 under one day and shoot 10 over the next. I was on Aaron Wise for a while. He really started to have a kind of a showing back into form. He said he found the putter. He was showing that. But you can see the putter has fallen off. You can see the birdies have been on a down kind of trend. I think not a bad showdown play or even a first round leader. Again, he kind of falls in that camp. Awesome ball striker like Luke List. It's just whatever the putter does. I'm not going to go through all these guys. Of course, Jim Herman, past champion. He's had some solid results. Of course, won here last year. You can see he had some decent results here prior, T18 and T11. Again, back to that teens. No reason why you couldn't plug in some Jim Herman. I think he's like the most unsexy pick you could ever make. From a birdie and point stamp, but he was leading day one at the WGC or up there. I think English ended up shooting 8 under the first day. So Jim Herman hung around Thursday, Friday, and then shot in the 70s on Saturday, Sunday. The number one guy that I'm going to, actually a local of Jackson, Michigan, played at Central Michigan. I've talked about Brian Stewart before. You can see the birdies are going nutty over the last 12 rounds. He is number 2 in my large model, and out of this field ranks number 4 over the last 12 rounds, 9th on approach. I mean, the guy is in fuego. You can see the ownership is also showing that. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen Brian Stewart at almost 13% projected ownership, but he's also got the recent results. Some decent pass history in this tournament, a 51st, a 31st, a 46, a couple miscuts. Let's go jump on Brian Stewart. I haven't done this for him. We already went over the Wyndham, but you can see over his life he does gain on Bermuda. Let's go look at his approach, just see what it's been trending. So yeah, you see this uptick on approach, so that's a good sign. That's a big thing we need here. You can see where he kind of struggles. And not struggles, it's just he doesn't get the distance off the tee, and this is a combination. When you look at off the tee stroke gain, it's distance and hitting fairways. And so you could be hitting fairways, but if you're not getting the distance, you're not going to get a really good stroke gain, of course, because if you've got guys that are hitting at 330, 320 and hitting fairways, they're going to be the guys that are getting that kind of points. But you can see the approach has been working. He had a crazy hot putter at the John Deere. The putter over the last, 5 rounds has been what's probably helping Mr. Stewart keep it going. And some of these, I'm just seeing that's actually bent. What the Travelers? I just want to, that's POA. I just wanted to take a look at that. But the John Deere, I'm pretty sure that's actually bent too. What about the 3M? That's bent. Okay, well, maybe he's a bent player. What did he do at Palmetto? Yeah, so that's Bermuda. He lost at Palmetto. Let's go take a. I just want to see some of the courses where he's had his best putting. So the Rocket Mortgage was bent. The Zurich, that was Bermuda, but that was way back in 2016. The Sony, so the two Sonys are both Bermuda. So anyways, let's go plug in some of the courses, see how he's done. So we already looked at, what about WGC St. Jude? Has not played. How's he done at the Players? And then I need to switch this around. So he had a 58th here recently. Best shown was a 17th way back in 2014, a 75th. Again, the correlation there, a tougher course, but it is Bermuda Greens. Also a shorter track. The Rocket, this is more of a Donald Ross kind of correlation. So he had a 5th there the first year it was held, and then a 20 or a 30th on 2020. Miscut recently. I highly doubt he's ever made a tour championship as far as I remember. He's had good showings at the RBC, and this is a strategic kind of plotters course, which makes sense a lot, I think. I mean, not, of course, Harbortown, I think, also is tougher than Sedgefield, but, you need to hit your drives and have the right angles in. The RSM, which is Sea Island, again, a very similar kind of track, and he's had good showings there. So, and then I already believe we took a little bit of look at the Sony, and he's had some really good showings there. A 5th, a 6th, a 4th, an 8th. So he likes playing Wailea. So yeah, Brian Stewart is going to be up there on my list. No thank you on KH Lee. The next guy I land on is Scott Stallings that I'm interested in. You can see made the cut last 3 times. Best was a 25th. I'm sorry. That's recent results. So he's had decent recent results. And then the last 2 times playing here, he's had a 42nd, a 31st. His birdies have been, up there a bit. Again, doing well in the key categories. A little struggle on the scrambling. Let's go click on Scott and see where he's at. So he gains on Poe over the life of his career, but loses typically on Bent and Bermuda. He has been gaining with the putter over the last 20 events, so that's good to see overall. Trying to see, his best showing was at the Byron Nelson TPC Craig Ranch, and that is bent greens. See where else he's had a high finish here recently. So Sanderson Farms, I do believe that is Bermuda. Was that CC of Hugh Jackson? Yeah, so that's Bermuda. So, you can look at that. Okay, let's plug in some of the comp courses for you. We already looked at the Wyndham. I don't know if he has not played the St. Jude. The Players, a lot of miscuts. Like a lot of guys, it's even better than him, but he has way back, has made a cut a couple times. What about the Rocket? 25th recently is his best showing at the Rocket Mortgage. Tour Championship he has never made. RBC Heritage. Miscut recently. But yeah, I'd say, okay. I mean, actually, Stallings has got some distance off the tee. He just got to make sure he keeps that in play. RSM, best showing was back in 2015. 63rd in 2020. And let's go look at the Sony earlier this year. A lot of miscuts at the Sony. That's kind of interesting. So yeah, I still like Scott Stallings. Good recent form for him. And again, I'm not looking for these guys to win. I'm looking for them to, maybe top 20, top 10 would be awesome to get us, get your 6 guys through, because that's going to be a big thing this week, getting 6 through. We're not going to have that no cut or smaller field stuff that we've had recently. I'm going to kind of skip through. Andrew Putnam actually could be a sneaky play. He had a good chance of winning the Barracuda here just this past weekend. That's not coming up, and it's probably off a lot of people's radar. What Andrew Putnam does well is he typically putts really well. Let's go click on him. I'm just really interested on those putting numbers. So you can see over the life of his career, he gains almost a half stroke against the field. You can see solid putter on all surfaces. You can see here, for some reason, over his last 5 rounds, he's losing strokes with the putter. The 3M, he lost almost 4 strokes with the putter. But you can see, typically, he gains. The Wells Fargo, that is Bermuda. At Quail Hollow, and that is, he gained 5 strokes there. So you can look at that. And approach has been kind of, off and on. It's off the tee, where typically he, it's a little bit of a struggle. But Andrew Putnam, I'm actually glad I kind of looked at that, because that might be someone I sprinkle in, especially with that kind of ownership. And without people probably really watching the Barracuda. That's recent good form. Adam Long, man, this guy, you could see this. This is Adam Long. He is either missing the cut, or he's going to be, I don't want to say in contention, but he's going to be up there. Typically if he pulls it all together, he could be not a bad play. Of course, Kramer Hickok, right, had a really good showing, went to the playoff with Harris English. It's typically the putter that throws him, but you can see here recently he's got that going. Could be a decent play. Molinari used to be, just elite with an irons. He also, I believe, needs a good showing here to make the FedEx Cup playoffs off the top of my head. Bryce Garnett fits the mold. That should do well here. Kuchar, it's crazy that he's kind of fallen to this, 6,800, but this would be a perfect course for Kuchar a few years ago, maybe even like 2 years ago. So he could come out of nowhere. So keep an eye on him. Funny enough, the next guy I'm landing on that I like is Jason Duffner. And I think as long as I've done this show, I've never picked Duff Daddy. But he has shown some really good recent form. He's got elite irons. It's, again, back to the putter. Good driver of the ball. It's got some distance. It's hitting on my 150 to 175, making some birdies. You can see he's got pretty past decent results here. Now, of course, he's a PGA champion, so he has won a major in the heights of his powers. But even a T31 last year, you can see projected ownership's around 5%. So let's go plug in Duff Daddy and see what comes up here. So Bermuda is his best worst surface over the life of his career. You see, he's had a couple positive putting outings, but all green here on the tee to green stuff, so that's good to see. See his last best. I just want to see his best finish when it was. So he won the Memorial, he won the Amex. There's the PGA win, the Byron Nelson, a couple Charles Schwabs. Came fifth at the Players. I mean, again, this is all older stuff, but it still kind of just shows you. And there's a seventh actually at the Wyndham way back in 2012. So he's had some success here a long time ago, almost 10 years ago. Has made a tour championship. All right, just something for you to see. And then let's go run some of these courses for you. So we already looked at the Wyndham. He's had, like I said, a mixed bag. WGC St. Jude. If he did play, it would be a while ago. Nope, has not played. The Players, 2018, he had that fifth. I'll make sure we got the most recent date up here. Okay. Yeah, so fifth in 2018, miscut recently. And like I said, it's just going to be with Duffy if the putter goes, man. I mean, that's a lot of these guys down here. There's a lot of guys that can hit the ball really well, tee to green. You see he's made it through the FedEx all the way to the tour. Again, this is back at the height of his powers. A lot of people probably don't know. One time he was a pretty good stick. Just kind of fallen on the wayside. RBC miscut recently, 11th back in 2017. What about the RSM? Bunch of miscuts, a 9th way back again in his heyday. What about the Sony? Miscut recently, a 9th in 2006. So, again, he's going to have some past good form. I'm looking at just recent results, with this what we're seeing right now. And knowing that he has some history here that's pretty decent, even as of last year. So that and what he's been doing over his last 12 rounds with the clubs, except again, it's going to come down to the putter. Sam Ryder, he's been playing pretty decent golf. You can see that right here. So, definitely could see you sprinkling some Sam Ryder. I looked at him. Richard Wawrinski, this is his type of course where he will pop up. Funny enough, Hendrik Norlander, and I was on him a little bit, I think, for the Olympics. And again, he hits the ball really well, tee to green. It is, the putter that kind of failed him, at least at the Olympics. But you can see recent results. He's making cuts, trending in the right way. T25 at Palmetto is 61st to 38. So he's kind of getting back to where Hendrik Norlander kind of goes in these spurts. He's played here before. He's had a T16 way back in 2013, a 59th recently. You can see the birdies are starting to peak up here a little bit. My big model ranked him at 11th, which kind of got me, first eyes on him. You can see Bermuda out of all of his surfaces is his best worst surface. You can see over the last 5 rounds, the putter has been, peaking up here. You can see this right here. That's what's got me most interested. Palmetto is Bermuda. Of course, that's bent. We already know. What is the Barbasol? I don't know what that's bent to at King Trace. And I think John Deere, if I remember correctly, is also bent. We just looked at that. So, typically recently he's like the bent, but hopefully the Bermuda. Charles Schwab, that is also bent. Okay. So right now he's liking the bent. What about the Memorial? So Wells Fargo is Bermuda. And the Memorial at Jack's Place, that's bent. So, there you go. It could just type of surface doesn't always come down to it. It could be right now that he's just in a good groove with his putter, has confidence. If you play the game of golf, you'd understand how much confidence comes in with the flat stick. All right. So the Wyndham, I think we already looked at this. 2 out of 3 made the cut, had a 16th back in 2013. WGC St. Jude, never played at WGC. What about the Players? Miscut recently. What about the Rocket? A 12th and a 38th. Again, that's bent greens, but it is a Donald Ross course. Old school golf course. Never made it to the Tour Championship. What about RBC? Miscut recently, a 78th way back again. What about RSM? That's not bad. He had a 2nd in 2006, but a 5th most recent at the RSM. And last but not least, the Sony had a miscut recently. Let me finish that off because Sanderson Farm. A 9th in 20, so not too bad at Wailea. And I think I already mentioned Tom Lewis could be a sneaky first round leader play. Bo Hosler's been playing some decent golf. You can see that there. Birdies have been up. The putter's been hot. Everything else a little suspicious. Camilo Villegas is a guy that I like, especially on Bermuda. Great iron player. Looked long and hard. Just some of the recent results. He's making cuts. You can see he's actually won here back in 2014, again at the height of his powers, but could be a good play down in this area. Wyndham, good ball striker. Length is where, and then not a bad putter is the approach, and you got to have approach for this course. Justin Hadley, I talked about. Actually, have a bet on. I think he had that recent showing. It's actually not coming up, but at Palmetto, where just lost it on the back nine, missed a putt to get to the playoff. Which Garrick Higo ended up winning, which I had a bet on Higo, so I was happy with that. But, he can spurt up, and the putter can be pretty deadly, even though it shows here not so much. We go click on Mr. Chesson Hadley. You can see Bermuda is his best putting surface, gains almost a quarter stroke against the field. And this was it right here. So if we look at the John Deere, it was all about the putter. Gained almost 6 strokes. So if he gets a hot putter again this weekend, he could be very live. Trying to see anybody else. Akshay Bhatia, always kind of an interesting man. The guy can make a ton of birdies, but makes a ton of bogeys. Also an interesting first-round leader. Satoshi Kodaira, I believe he's at 130 to 1. I mentioned good first-round leader. He had some really good showings. You can take a look. It was all done with the putter, and that's kind of fallen to the wayside. So here you go. Just bang, 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 bang. Just gaining 4 strokes with the putter. And then once the putters kind of went a little cold, miscut. With the 20th, he ball striked the crap out of it. And so also could be a decent play. This course would kind of fit his game. Kevin Tway had some nice recent form. I don't know if I have anybody else down here. I thought I had one more. The model's kind of liking Nick Watney. Just side note. Scott Brown showing some recent form. You can see approach and putter. I think he's an interesting play. Has made the cut 4 out of the 5 times here. Had that 4th at John Deere again, where the putter went in Fuego. So again, definitely could sprinkle in some Scotty Brown. And I actually have a bet on Malnati, just a pure. I think he's 400 or 500 to 1. And I'll go look. I'll tell you why I bet Malnati. It has nothing to do with recent form, but Bermuda, he gains typically a half stroke with the putter. And then he had this run back here. So it was like fall where he could have won Sanderson Farms. I mean, he was leading big time, and then Shriners, and then at Bermuda. So he had this like really nice run. And then, even at the Sony to kick the year off, he had a 14th, he had a 10th at the Farmers. And then he just went disaster. And I think a lot of it, if I remember, it was on approach. His irons went south. Made a cut a couple of these 2 out of the last 4. So Malnati can be super streaky. And like I said, I'm not telling you to play him from a DFS play. I mean, you could. He's, as you see from a projected ownership, could be sneaky. But, I think it was, like I said, a 400 to 1 bet. I was like, I'll throw a couple shackles. I was trying to see anybody else down here that's worth talking about. Brian Gay, right? Bermuda putter. You can see nothing showing here, but the guy on Bermuda, right? Of course, he won the Bermuda, start the year off. And it should show, over the life of his career, gains over a half stroke on Bermuda. Kind of fits the mold, right? He's not going to do anything sexy off the tee, but you can see it's the putter, and typically on Bermuda where he can strike. Let's just see. I know the last, so that was like his last, first win in like 7 years. 7 years. Won the Amex, and then a bunch of old Mayakoba. But his last win was on Bermuda, so you could correlate some of that. And I think, Michael Gellerman, just been crazy hot with the irons. You see the putter's disastrous, but recent results. He's made 4 of his last 5 cuts. He's, bare men price. I think I actually got him first round leader. I think he's like 130 to 1. You know, if you're hitting your irons just super hot, you can see Bermuda is his worst surface. But you can see it's just, man, he loves his irons. But he's also been gaining off the tee a little. It's just the putter. I mean, if he, as you see, he only lost a stroke with the putter and had a 16th. Um, Trying to see what was his best putting outings. Let's take a look at that. So he gained at the 3M, he gained at Sanderson Farms, the Rocket Mortgage. Okay, let's do this a different way. Let's see his best finishes. So that's actually a Corn Ferry Tour event. So he's never done better than a 16th, and that's recently at the 3M. So that's kind of interesting. But again, I mean, it's you know, of course, it's a long shot, but if you want to, you can see he does some of the things. Good drives. Again, this is over the last 12 rounds. You can see ownership. Some people are already kind of looking at this. His proximity to 150. It's just the putter. He's going to need, you know, the putter to just stay neutral, and you'd be all right. All right, I think that's enough on that side. Let's go look at ownership projections. Again, this is out of Fantasy National. This is from a DraftKings perspective. I filtered so this way here we can actually look at the highest owned. The number that we're going to look at is over here. How this works, if you are new to the show, is, you know, if you use this Fantasy National, you know, you're picking your favorites, you're building a ton of lineups. Of course, that get pumped into DraftKings. They take all that information, which gives you a ownership projected number, and it's usually pretty accurate within a percent or two, just so you know. Of course, Webb, even though, you know, recent form has not been spectacular, but it is the Wyndham, it's Webb. He's your highest own. And then, of course, you got Louis, who's been in great recent form. Even, you know, if you don't look at the Sunday that he just had at the WGC. So, you know, just the two guys that I also picked, so no shocking. And Russ Henley, my third guy. So really, you know, I'm not saying I'm contributing to these numbers, but it is kind of amazing the more I keep watching or doing this, that like my top three guys every time are pretty heavy. And I guess we're all kind of on the same, you know, maybe on the same wavelength. Schwartzel was another guy in on my top 15. Hank, you know, the one guy I'm not on, was not one of my top 15. Seamus Power was one of my top 15. Ryan Armour already talked about. I think it's the best value. Again, from everything we know, of course, the tournament has to be played, but for $7,000, that's no shocker that his ownership is that high. You know, Kokrak I talked about for the WGC does typically show up on these shorter courses, but I'm not liking what I've been seeing lately with Kokrak, so I didn't pick. Streelman could do well here. It's going to be the putter. You know, Decky, it's kind of interesting. He's down to this lower percent. Again, I get it. It's a very putter heavily needed. You know, it's the one thing that this course has a defense is greens. So that's kind of interesting. Ches, a pick of mine. You got Will Z. And someone in my community asked me who to pick between Will Z and Hideki. I went with Will Z. Also, you get a little bit of a price saving, $700. You're also getting a little bit of projected ownership savings. So if you're out there and you're listening, there's a little more information on that. There's my Brian Stewart. Again, that's crazy that he's almost 12% ownership. That's nuts. There's my Brokeback Mountain, Patty Gazire I like. I did not pick him in my top 15, which is somehow you kind of slipped through there. But of course, I have bets on him, and I'm going to be using them definitely like in Showdown. You know, Johnny Vegas was a pick of mine. Henrik Norlander I just talked about, so he's almost 9.5 for a value play. Siwoo Kim, I mean, just, man, it'd be so interesting. It would be so like Siwoo Kim to go out and have a really good tournament after he's just been a disaster for like the last 4 or 5 tournaments. Kevin Na was a pick of mine. There's Zach Johnson. I was curious where he fell, and he was a pick of mine in my top 15. Just see anything else is kind of interesting that stands out. There's the Duff Daddy at 5%. Aaron Wise, again, man, if he just gets out, I think Munoz is a good play. You know, where's Lanto Griffin? Because he was a pick of mine, and I'm just curious if anybody. So there you go, 3% ownership. So I'll get some differentiation there with Lanto if he strikes. Just looking at names. Jim Herman, your past winner, only at 4%. Mac Hughes, that's, you know, for me, that's kind of shocking. I think he could do really well here. He was a pick of mine. I talked about Villajagas, could also do well here. Scott Stallings is going to be one of my top value plays. There's Lanto. Dave McCarthy I looked at, but that's all he's got as a putter, and it has not been that great. So I was out on him, of course. Smell the glove. Glover is just had that win, but not a very good showing at WGC. Sadoshi Kadire has been coming out hot out of the gate. Got Sam Ryder, I think is an interesting play. EVR, again, maybe not a lot of people watch the Barracuda, but he just had his first victory on the PGA Tour. The guy, can get super hot, and he's at 1% ownership. So there's an idea if you're trying to differentiate. It's Scott Piercy, which that's a little more difficult for me. I mean, they're both highly volatile, but both showed some decent recent form on a course that has some similarities. Of course, that was POA, and that's on the West Coast in California where they just played. Bo Hosler, Scotty Brown could be sneaky. Richard Wawrinski, again, I mentioned this is the course that he's gonna pop up at. Mark my words that he will. Okay, I think that's it from ownership projection. It gives you some ideas of what's going on that side. And then last but not least, your friendly weather report. Again, I show this, go to Windfinder. You're going to want to go to Concord Airport. That is the closest location to the course, probably where some of the guys are flying their G6s into. And, nothing crazy on the weather side. It's going to get really hot. No shocker. Looks like no rain until maybe late. Looks like the wind's going to come up possibly, after pretty much they're done with golf. I mean, you can see nothing crazy on Thursday. Nothing too crazy on Friday or Saturday right now. Rain again at the evening. And it was like Sunday, maybe it'll rain towards the end. But again, this is so far out. I always do this, and I just tell you guys, the only reason why I show the weather is more just point you guys in a direction. If you're playing Showdown, where to go. Use Windfinder. Go to Concord Airport as your location. And, keep an eye on it when you're putting your teams together for Showdown. I don't see, anything from an AM, PM kind of split. Nothing that even looks remotely. Okay, let's go wrap this up. Okay, so for my top 5 value plays, just to summarize, I'm going with Brian Stewart, the guy playing out of Central Michigan. Been a great recent form. If he can keep that putter going, could definitely, I don't think he's going to win this thing, but top 10 would be great. You got Luke List, where he does have a possibility of winning this thing if he gets a hot putter. He's that kind of talent from tee to green. You got Stallings, again, got some distance, been a good recent form. It's always the same. Got to have a putter. Henrik Norlander, a lot like Luke List. Almost, I think they're very close from a ball striking perspective. Going to have the putter. And then last but not least, I think as a first on this show, Duff Daddy, good recent forms, got good history at the course. And it's good to come down the putter with him if he can, do something for us. So that's my top 5 value plays, and that is my Before the Lock show. Thank you all again for spending some time with me. If you would do me the honor of clicking that like button, share with anybody else that you know. Subscribe. If you've not subscribed, don't forget my giveaway, $1,000 to one lucky random winner. And I'm going to pull that, probably get the announcement on my preview show for the Tour Championship. So a few weeks out. And then if I can help you with anything, as some people do, hit me up on YouTube comments. If I have an opinion or some advice, I think that helps. I will definitely give you my feedback. And also, you can follow me on Twitter. Typically on Twitter, I just kind of announce anytime I see a withdrawal. On that note, Patrick Reed, which you're going to see this very clearly, has withdrawn from the Wyndham. And then also Stadler withdrew. That's the only 2 withdrawals I've seen so far. But it's always noted within DraftKings. So just if you're building your lineups in a bubble before, like building a tool, just so you know, don't waste your time with those guys. All right, guys. Hey, have a great tournament. Best of luck to all of us.